Today we are going to make your round broom, sort of like the Beetlejuice broom. It's got stripes on it. It has a little star tie on here, which probably could have been tied on a little bit better, and some, what do you call these? Pips, I think they're called. So anyways, it's just something a little decorative. It's got some stars in it too. Okay, so that's our broom for today. Let's get started. As far as tools go, you need a hammer, and I have already done this, but here's my broomstick. Now mine's, ouch, black with a splinter in my hand, but yours is purple, so, and it's alder. If you can see on here, that nail is up just a little bit, and I did about 2 fingers before I tapped it in. We'll go through that, but I just went ahead and got that done. So here's your little spray pip. Now my star is a little bit different than yours. Yours has little star holders in it and a holder, and then this is just some wire to hold that on. I used, you don't have to use wire, but I had some wire left from making wreaths that I used on that other one. So I've got my jerk string ready. I've got my X-Acto, because that's my knife of choice, and I have a pair of scissors on standby in case I need them. So that's what we'll need to get started with. And my broom corn is soaking. You can see it over here in my bucket. And I'm going to use that dyed broom corn last. I'll be using the natural to go underneath. And then when I get to the outer layer and I want to do the braid, I will be using the dyed broom corn. Now, one thing I will tell you up front is that when I got started here, in fact, I'll show you, what I did is I just put a rubber band around this and stuck it in the water, but you'll see that I have orange and purple. And the reason I have orange and purple is I gave you guys all my purple. So, and I haven't had a chance to dye purple yet. So for today's class, we are going to be using purple and orange. You will have all purple, which is what it's supposed to look like, but sometimes you gotta punt, and this is what we're punting with today. So I'm gonna put that back in my warm water so that it's soaking as I get ready here. And I'm gonna get set up with my spindle, making sure that I've got my jerk string, and I'll talk to you about how to make one and how to get started next. And I make sure that the nylon is coming off the top of my spindle. And I want to start off my knots by using a overhand knot. Just your basic overhand knot. And then I'm going to do a slip knot, but I want it to slide on the long piece, not the short piece. So I'm going to go over 3 fingers. Where it intersects, I'm going to hold it with my thumb, turn it upside down, do the magic rabbit hat thing. Go through the hoop, grab that long string, and pull it up. Now, I don't like a long, short string when I tighten that up. So what I do is I kind of work this through right here, and then tighten it up. Okay? So remember, we talked about tapping in your broom nail, and I always do all my tapping and cutting. I'll just set my broom spindle up on the end. This is made out of oak, super solid. So, and when I start hammering on it, I don't have to worry about, like on a table, jumping. Okay, so I'm going to slip this on top of that broom. Now, this is the broom handle. This is where the broom corn goes. Okay, so I'm going to tighten that up, and then I'm going to put my spindle back down and make sure I've got enough tension on that. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to wrap it for about 3 times. Now when you first start, sometimes it'll tend to spin on you. You can just hold that and actually wrap on that the string for one wrap, and then it'll stop doing that. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to take a minute here after I did that, and I'm going to leave my dyed broom corn in. But I'm going to take my natural broom corn out and put it here on the table. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to utilize the broom corn that is not as pretty as some of the others for braiding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So when I look at this broom corn that's all nice and wet, I see I've got some really nice long thin ones. Well, that's the knurl, you know. Here's the connection. So because I'm going to be putting this stuff underneath and I'm not going to be braiding it, I'm not really concerned with length. So I'm going to call that a top or a pretty is what I call it. When you look at this, it's pretty thick and it's also short compared to that one. So this is something really great for working underneath with. And then I'll just go through here quick. These are really nice, pretty ones that will, and I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, oh, and some of these have still have the sheath on them. I can look at that and think, that's really not good for much of anything, and I'll put that to the side to use for another project. This guy's nice and long and really thin, so I'll put him over in the possible braiding pile. These guys are kind of in between. They could be used for either one. This one's shorter. Okay, that one's longer. So you kind of just go through here real quick and say, oh, shorts, longs, but that's kind of thick, so that's a little short. This is a little short. You see what I'm saying? And it's just easier to go through with your pound of reed and make that determination now. And remember that you will not be braiding. Oh yeah, you will be. You'll be braiding every other one. So you do need some nice long pretties for the top of the last layer. And those last layer ones I'm going to actually stick back in the water because I want them nice and supple. So that's a really nice long one. That's a nice long one. And I may not need that length, but it's always nice to have it just in case. These are all pretty thin and nice. And I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule. If you don't have enough to go underneath, there's one that doesn't have a stem on it. I'll use it for something else. You can always use them if you have them. Let's say you have them in your pretty pile to braid. So those are my thick ones that are going to go underneath, or the internal layers, I guess. And then these are the ones that I said, okay, they got the potential for braiding. So the potential for braiding is going to go back in the water because I'm not going to work with those right this minute. So, and they're still getting nice and supple and wet. I'm going to add my first layer. Now, because you're not braiding this, it does not matter how many you put in. It doesn't matter if it's an even or odd amount because you're going to end up getting rid of some of this bulk here. Okay, now when I put that on, you see that I'm not right next to the connection here. I'm a little bit up from it, and the reason for that is that tends to be if it's going to break, that's a good point to do it. All right, so remember that if you are right-handed, the broomstick goes to the on the right-hand side of your body. The broom corn, or the brushy part, goes to the left hand, and that would be opposite if you're left-handed. So all I'm trying to do at this point is just go around and cover this up one time. And it doesn't matter how many I have. Don't need that on there. It just matters that I cover up that first layer. Okay. Now I'm going to wrap for 3. I always either get my head or I don't get my hands. Alright, so I can see where I started by looking here. And I have 3 wraps on there, so I'm going to do another layer of broom corn. So this will be my second layer. Once again, you see where I creased it at? Not right next to this. Not right next to it. Up just a little bit. So, and usually what I end up doing is adding in 2s. You don't have to. It's probably just a habit for me because I always want to have an odd amount, but at this point it doesn't matter. So one thing you do want to be aware of when you're making brooms is if you get really big and you have small hands, and you're going to have trouble. So these are my guys that I have, or that I went through and said, okay, these would make really good under layer for the broom, but no, I don't have any more, so I'm gonna have to go look through some of those pretties and take some of those. So I'll go through here just real quick and say, oh, okay, something that's relatively thick, I'll take you. Okay, so that's my second layer, and I'm gonna go around for 3 again. So about 3 turns here, and I'm holding on to that tension. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this stuff back. I use an X-Acto. I'm going to go one more round just to make sure. If you have a knife that you like, or whatever, you know, I like X-Actos because they're sharp, and I don't have to sharpen them. When the blade's dull, it can go away, and I can put a new one in there, but notice that when I'm doing this, I am cutting away from myself. So, I'm going to trim all these back. And I'm always holding the tension as I come around here. Okay. Just going to get rid of those by cutting out a little bit. I could, if I wanted to, come in here with my scissors and cut that off. But alright, so now I want to do 2 things. I want to put in... Do I want to put this in yet? No, I don't. I lied. I want to start using my dyed broom corn. So remember, yours are purple. Mine are going to be purple. And pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going to do every other one. Now, this has to be an odd amount for the braid to work. You notice when I put it in, I creased on it. They don't have to be super tight. Okay, that one was pumpkin, so I'll put a purple one in. Okay, and then I'll put another natural in. And what that does is it gives it a striped effect. So to me, you can see the design a little bit better. If you put all of these like you did on your curly willow one, it's cool, but you don't get to see a pattern per se. So this is, by putting every other one in, you get more of a pattern. Looks like Beetlejuice's broom. How's that? So every other one until I've got this covered right, or well, I guess not right, and making sure that it is an odd amount. So I'm going to go back here and count that to make sure when I come around. That is pretty stubby. So this time it's a natural. And you can only braid as much as your shortest, the shortest knurl on your broom form. So even though I might have some really nice long dyed ones or natural ones, if the opposite is true, whatever I can, the shortest one at this point, that's as much as I can do a braid. My point being, these might be super long, but this is the shortest one. Sort of like you can only go as fast as the slowest dog in your dog team. Different, but sort of the same. Okay, so I'm coming around here. I'm going to stop right here and check how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so about 10. of short. Oh well. That's going to make it 11, and 12 will make it even, so I've got to put 2 more in there, which means that you're going to have 2 color next to each other, but no big deal, we'll make it a purple. How's that? Remember, it's just a broom. Okay, so that is really short. So maybe I'll make it like it just says longer. Alright, so now I'm going to wrap for 3. And I think I will, at this point, before I wrap for 3, put my little embellishment in here. I'll take the tag off in a minute. So I'm going to lay that in there, and I'll fan that out after a while. I'm going to put that down lower, I think. Okay, so I'm going to wrap for 3. And then what I'm going to do is start the braid. Now I'm not going to braid that, that's just anchored. So I'm going to dip it down, put that underneath, take my finger, pull it, and crease. Same thing here. So it's an over and under plait or braid. Around, and I see that I am opposite now on the second row. That's exactly where I want to be. So and I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 rows here just to show you what this looks like, and then what I'm going to do is not bore you through this entire process. Okay, so as I said, I can tell that I'm on because I am opposite on every other row of the weave. And I can tell that this little short guy here, I'm not going to like for long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat him like he busted and show you how to, if you are weaving along and you maybe you didn't soak it long enough, or maybe it's just a bad piece of broom corn and it starts looking super ratty like that. And I mean, you can still weave with that, but sometimes what'll happen is it'll actually just pop right in half. And I'll show you how we fix that. I think on this original broom, I tied this with green. And you can do that, or you can do it in the black that you have from your last kit. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix that, since it's black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, what I've got left and soaking here. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to take my X-Acto and I'm going to actually cut this guy in half. It's going to be my Band-Aid. How's that? So, as I come around to this guy, this time he's going to be underneath. So I'm going to go around one more row, and then I'm going to show you how I use the Band-Aid approach to fix that, because it's pretty ratty and it's pretty short. And it's always good to know how to fix a stem of your broom corn if it does bust. And sometimes they do. Okay, so I'm coming up to this guy. Now what I want to do is I want to lay that new piece right on top of here. See, it's a half. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors, this ratty stuff in the back, and I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so this now has become my new stake. And you say, well, look at that big chunk there. That looks terrible, but I tell you what, this is the magic of broom corn. When your broom is all dry, and depending on humidity, and like if you've got wood heat in your house, when this is completely dry, that will pop right off. Now when it's wet, it won't. So you just leave it alone even though it looks bad. And when it's dry, you can just take a thumb and pop that down and it'll pop right off. Okay. Alright, so you can see what my braid looks like. The magic of the finger pulling it over and creasing. Can't stress that enough. If you want a nice tight broom, then you need to roll it down, use your finger, bring it over and crease. Alright, so I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to bring this up a little bit further, and then when I get to the point where I'm going to tie it off, I'll show you how we do the jerk string, and that's next. So that is about as far as I'm going to go. I got this shorty, I've got another shorty over here, we're going to call that good. So I'm going to grab my jerk string, making sure that the knot is on the right hand side because I am right-handed. And I'm going to lay this down here, making sure that I'm not over anything. And I'm going to wrap for 3. Going on top. Okay, so I'm going to hold that tension with my thumb. Come down here and cut that string. And change thumbs. Open this guy up. Grab that tail through there. Change my thumb again. Come over here to the jerk string. Make sure I don't have any twists in it. And jerk it through. So I like to make sure that's nice and tight. You can take an X-Acto. You can take a pair of scissors. Make sure that you cut away from it and tighten it up. Now, like I say, I know that looks bad, but when it dries you can pop it, so we're going to leave it alone. So now I want to trim up my broom. And what I like to do is just apply some pressure and pull up. All the way around. So now, usually what you do is you wait and you let these dry and then you sew them. But you don't have to. And so let's say you're making a whole bunch of them. You can tie them up, hang them up, and let them dry, and then maybe sew them the next day. But we're going to go ahead and sew ours. I'm going to take that tag off there. Okay. So you have a choice here. You can either tie your broom down and have that on top, and I think on my other one I did not do that. So then one thing that you might want to do, I see this happen when I was going round and round, what you might want to do when you're doing this is take a rubber band And one of two things. Don't worry about it and sew it down, or better thing is to take this rubber band before you start, and that kind of protects that from jumping around. So, and that's what we're going to do anyways when we sew it. So it's just kind of a getting ahead of the game. All right, so you see I got purple and pumpkin because I didn't have all my purple, which kind of turns out kind of cool. So if you have some of your orange broom corn left from your first class, you can always do that. Mix it up with the purple. Something different. Okay, so I have my cord, and usually what I do is I'll take like 2 arms lengths, and then I have it. Here's my loop, and I'm going to take that 2 fingers on that loop, point them down, put those 2 fingers together, and then you have a loop. Okay, so we are going to take that loop, hold it open, and we're going to go around twice with your thread. And we're going to slip it through that loop and tighten it up. Okay. So what I want to do, we did the same thing on the cobweb broom, but you remember I told you that what I like to do is go around and stitch it, and that's what I'm going to do on this one. Get that as tight as you want. And then I'm going to come diagonally across. And I want these to look like straight stitches. And it never seems to matter what you do. You always get one string that's either longer or shorter than the other. So when you pull through, make sure that you've got both of them tight. And of course you've got these things to go around. So I'm going to do that all the way around, just like we did with the first broom. And then what I'm going to do is go in between the center and cut it tight. Kind of fudge around these guys a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll come down here again and do like 2 or 3 fingers, and I'll do another one. You could do a third one as well. You'll have more than enough string to do that with, to tie that on. So it's, you know, totally up to you. I've seen people that have done like a cross stitch that looked really pretty on these as well. So this would be, oops, see now wasn't paying attention and I didn't keep them even. So the round broom predates the flat broom. The round broom was used for getting in corners, as I understand it. But when the shakers got a hold of the broom, they flattened it out, and that way they had more surface tension, you know, and it would clean better. But originally brooms were round. So I'm just gonna bear with me as I go around one time here and show you how I finish this, and then I'll do the other 2 or other row. Really 2 is all you need, but it doesn't hurt to put 3. Or if you want to get real decorative, you could do more. And you see that once you get going here, it doesn't take a lot of time and effort to sew this down. So I'm going to go, actually that was my beginning stitch there, so I'm just going to go through diagonally there, pull it through, and then cut it off. So I will do another one down here, and then as far as your star goes, like I said, mine's a little bit different. If you wanted to, you could like take, and this might be a better way to go so that it stays better, take your star and put your thread through it up here on the top, and then take your needle and actually come down through here and pull those things, those strings through there, and then tie it on the back. I think that'd stay nicer than just wiring it to the outside. So that's probably what I'll do with this one. And there you have it. I'm not going to say, well, I'll take this off and show you. And I'll do my other thing there. There's your awesome Beetlejuice broom. How's that? So, like I say, remember this, when this dries, you can just pop it right off. And you can flare these out where you want them. I didn't take a lot of time with that. But flare them out where you want them when you make sure the stars are showing, you know. And that might be another good reason to do a third row of stitching, just to have these placed where you want them. All right. So there's your second project done. And depending on how wild you want this broom to look, you can either come back down here and trim up your ends, you know, so it looks like, I always call it giving it a haircut. So let's say, well, you just really need to get a little bit of a haircut here. It's more aerodynamic. Or you could just come right across and cut it straight. But I kind of like this more aerodynamic look. Anyways, so there you go. Next month we're going to actually do some cane work on the handle of the broom before we start tying the broom. So that will be, and hopefully I will get that out to you by the end of the month, and then we'll be caught up. And then we'll have one more hawktail broom to do in November. So we'll see you next month.